Hey everybody, we're on our way out here to put some signs up on a new listing, so we got some windshield time and want to get into a video that I've been really taking some notes on and thinking on the last couple weeks as our market really in East Tennessee, well really as a country, but especially here in East Tennessee, which is what we are all concerned about, our local market, is definitely slowing down. Inventory, I think, really at any day should hit 7,000. I've actually not even checked today. I should have checked. Should hit 7,000 plus, which will be the most. Again, I feel like every other week, I'm coming on here and saying most inventory since COVID that we've had, and I think it's only going up quick. It doesn't seem like we've got any sign for interest rates to come down to help it, and buyers and the economy is just beat up. I do think the economy is going to be turned in the right direction. I do think if this, the big beautiful bill in some form, meaning the bonus depreciation aspect of it, whether if it's all passed at once or it gets broken up, if that bonus depreciation of 100% gets passed, I do think the real estate market will greatly benefit from that. And of course, what a lot of people don't realize is the real estate market, they think, oh, you know, real estate, you're buyers and sellers. You have so many people in our country that make money off of a real estate transaction, right? So not only do you have the buyers and sellers, you have the agents involved, you have the title companies involved, you have the lenders involved, you have the underwriters involved, you have the appraisers involved, you have the inspectors involved, you have the owners and associates and front desk people of all those companies that are involved. I mean, you have millions and millions of people who make their money arguably from real estate deals. So it's a really important thing. I think to keep the economy healthy is for a healthy real estate market. So let's get into the tips. And I've been thinking on this and kind of taking notes because I didn't want to make this, oh, here's my 3 tips, and then they're the dumbest common sense tips, right? They're like, now I'm not going to say that 1 or 2 of these aren't kind of like the common sense tips that you all know of, such as lower your home price. But I really wanted to go into some detail as to why. That these are my tips. These are what I tell my sellers. These are what I personally use. In the last, really 8 months, I've done 3 flip properties personally. So that means I've actually bought them, been buyers, and I've actually sold them myself. So I've been on the selling side. And I've had 3 completely different experiences from those flips. My first one I thought was going to sell in a day. It actually did take about 2 weeks, and I took a couple thousand less than what I thought I was going to take. And I'm an agent. I'm in it every day. I know the numbers. I see the numbers. I know the behaviors. And I still ended up taking a couple thousand less than really what I thought I was going to take. So I was kind of surprised. On my very next one, I literally didn't. I put this sign up. I literally put the sign up in South Knoxville, and I drove back. Time I got to basically West Knoxville, I got a call from the neighbor who's a renter and was like, "I want to buy this house," and he was also an agent. And so I was like, "All right, well, let me drive back over there and meet you." I never even got the house listed. It was crazy. Literally within 30 minutes, 45 minutes, we basically had a handshake agreement on that. Home never even touched the market. It was just one of the wildest things. And then I had another one. It's finally got a contract on it. Again, I priced it, everything I did, which I'm going to go into some of the strategies that I used here around it in the price point that it's at. And I was like, oh yeah, should be a quick, easy sale. I'll be dang if the damn thing was on the market like a month. And I had to lower the price several times. I ended up getting probably about where I thought I would get it, except I had to hold on to it for a lot longer than what I thought. Because I priced a little bit high to give myself a buffer, and I had a strategy with that. It's been so I'm going to kind of talk about these and then the strategies that I've used and conversations I have with sellers and why it's, the pros and cons of doing these actions. So number 1, in a slow market, something that you as a seller that I think is super beneficial to you. And I've done it so far on all of my flip properties. As I've bought them, I've done a full inspection. And I have provided that full inspection to the buyers. And so therefore, it encourages them that they don't have to do an inspection, which is about $500. So it saves the buyers $500. Plus they get to see it, know everything that's wrong with it beforehand. For me, I also get to see it, know everything is wrong with it. So if there's something, you know, it's amazing what a couple hours, you know, paying a handyman can actually come in and fix on a home inspection report versus risking buyers walking away. Quick example, all right? You know, locals here in East Tennessee are I'm about to say our economy. Our environment is very humid, right? In spring, we've had, I don't know what, for some reason, the weather decides to rain every day here this spring. But we get hot, cold, right? A little colder at night, a little hotter during the day, and you get rain, you get moisture. We have crawl spaces here because our terrain is like this. Well, in that, if you don't properly push the water away and your crawl space is not properly vented or encapsulated, mold grows. And it's as simple as going in there. We're going to have it. Unless you're like going above and beyond to prevent it, you're going to get mold. It's not really, again, my personal opinion is it's not the end of the world. But people that are not from here, people that are from out of state, aka a lot of times like California, right? They don't really have much humidity over there. And the term mold just freaks them out. And to the point where I've seen buyers, especially comes back and say, hey, here's some fungus, might be mold. Buyers like, oh my gosh, I'm not doing mold. I'm allergic. I'm walking away. I'm like, literally 30 minutes with some bleach ointment or pay a company, like it's not a big deal. Plus it's whatever home you're going to buy is at risk for mold. But a pre-inspection, right? So I'm going to go down some rabbit holes because I'm going to talk about some scenarios with these, but a pre-inspection be a good thing. Right now, our fall through rates is above 30% in East Tennessee, and even our team is at about a 30%. So that means that at 1 out of every basically 3 contracts that we get ends up in a fall through. I will tell you, usually right now, and because the lenders we use, it's not because of financing. We're very good at our job. The lenders are amazing at their job. So we don't really have as many financing problems now as what we used to. But it's a lot more on the inspection, right? We get under a contract, right? And inspection comes back bad. Buyers like, oh my gosh, terrible. We try to negotiate. Sellers unreasonable, don't understand, so they won't negotiate. Also, on the flip side of that, hey, you know, seller gives $20,000 off to a buyer. They pay $10,000 closing costs. Inspection comes back. Buyer sends a report. Say, I want all this. Well, you can't get $30,000 off and then also try to get every tedious thing wrapped up. So it goes both sides. It's basically, are people going to be reasonable or unreasonable? And an unreasonable person can kill a good deal in a heartbeat. But I'm a big fan of this. And it's nothing that I really encourage sellers to do. Or I like push them to do. I do think it's an option. It's something I've chosen to do on my flip properties because I don't want to deal with a fall through. I know the pain of the fall through and coming back on the market. It's annoying, and then you're pissed off, and it sucks. So I'm trying to get ahead of fall throughs. I want to prevent that. I'd rather have my inspection report on the MLS and somebody not come and look at the property because it's just wasting everybody's time anyways. Or not go under contract when they was trying to negotiate a bunch of crap up front, or we can negotiate everything up front. Right, and I know the things in inspection reports that are respectful to offer credits for and to get fixed, and it's going to flag loans. So I know how to take care of all that, and I can note it. You know, hey, listen, there's definitely been reports we got stuff back, and we have fixed, you know, everything that we feel would prevent a buyer from buying it, or they would try to negotiate, you know, 3 times the amount of money it would cost us to do it. So that's an option. Get that, right? That helps them. Cost you $500, but you do have to disclose that. There is no, and I remember this was in Rockwood. It was a seller that somehow contacted me on LinkedIn. First and only clients ever reached out to me on LinkedIn and wanted me to sell their house. Went out, met him. Again, kind of weird vibes, but, you know, it was what it was. And I listed the home. We had like 2 fall throughs back to back, and both of them are just like, hey, major termite damage underneath, right? And the crawl space is a true crawl space. I couldn't get in there to even remotely see it. But you know, as a seller and as the agent, we don't want to see those reports, and we have to disclose that. So I finally, after the second one, I said, well, hey, listen, you want to see this report? They said they're willing to send it to us, and then we can disclose that, and that way the next buyer, we don't have to worry about it. And he goes, yeah, sure. So I get the report. I looked at it. Terrible. Absolutely awful. Termite damage. Major money. I sent it to him. He says, oh, no, we're not disclosing this. I said, we have to disclose this. I in writing, I told you how this works, and you agreed to it in writing. And now you've seen this, and now you're telling me not to disclose this. And I said, I'm so sorry. This is not worth, well, one, my reputation, two, an ethics violation. Heck, I don't know what all other categories it falls in, but I'm not misleading or misrepresenting this property. Now that you have told me to do this, and now you've told me that you don't want me to disclose this, so I'm going to cancel this listing. So I canceled that listing. I wanted no part of it. No part of that mess. Not dealing with a seller there that was trying to pull some shady stuff. But so you do have to disclose that. So you do run the risk of finding something out major. But at the end of the day, that buyer was probably going to find it out anyways. So you're better off knowing it up front and not risking the fall through. Next is getting the home appraised. I do think, there's definitely been several properties over the years. I would call them unicorn properties, to where, I'm out here running comps and there's just nothing out there. I mean, there's no, and usually happens in more rural areas. You built a $1 million home in Morgan County. Well, I can go and tell you, $1 million homes in Morgan County don't sell very often. And they usually aren't within 5 miles or 6 miles or 7 miles or 10 miles. And so it makes running comps on a home very difficult. And so going the route of getting it appraised, paying $500, getting it appraised. Now, an appraisal is not something that has to be disclosed. So one of my conversations I've had with sellers, and there's a seller in Oakdale that chose another agent over me. I'll give you this example. I ran comps for them. I come back at like 275 was the number that I have them. They actually bought the house like, I don't know, 3, maybe 4 years ago, no more than 4 years ago. Bought it for like 145. Now they did some good improvements to it, but still the quality of the home, the construction of the home, everything about it, the location, comps based on when you compare apples to apples, was at 275. And they told me, they said, oh, well, we got it appraised not too long ago for like, I'm wanting to say the number was maybe like 320. I was like, great, you have that appraisal. Well, they kind of like went silent. And I was like, hey, if you have that appraisal, let's list it and then we'll advertise that appraisal so we can say 320, here it is appraised. Bam, that's a good number. Now, appraisals is not public information. And then one appraiser does not consider another appraiser's opinion. They have a different opinion. It's kind of like a real estate opinion. 10 different realtors, 10 different opinions. 10 different appraisers, 10 different appraisals opinion. Now, well, it's likely they should be close, but it's really going to be based on the area, the comps, and how consistent things are, and basically I would say the range of error and interpretation and that they can use for it. Well, of course, magically now this appraisal that they said they had does not exist. They messaged me back and said, hey, we're going to go with another person, which is fine. You're never going to hurt my feelings at all. I hope people pick the agent that works best for them. I realize I'm not the best agent for everybody. And you're never going to make me mad. Now, I do kind of get a little humored sometimes when people come back around to me, or I see this happen, and it happens several times a year at this point with as much business as we do. But I see the home set for 6 months. I see the home set for a year. I see the home cancel. I see the home sell for less than what I told them they should sell it for. And usually what happens is whenever they list to another agent, they list it significantly higher. And this is what happened with this one. They did go with another agent that listed at $400,000. Ups on it. I don't know the activity on it. I tell people all the time, I hope I'm wrong. All right, I hope I'm wrong, because usually if I'm wrong, it benefits you. I'm going to be conservative based on comps and numbers of what I can argue an appraiser. And I have often been wrong, and I've been wrong on both sides of it. Usually when I'm wrong, it's because the home actually did sell for more, which did benefit you, versus it sold for way less, or it didn't appraise and you're getting less money. I don't want to be on that side of. There we go, we're back. But yeah, I don't want to be on the side of the fence where it's Steven lied to me. I want to be on the side of the fence of, oh man, yeah, we actually got more money than what Steven told us we were expected to get, right? That's the side of the fence I want to be on. So getting it appraised. But again, you don't have to disclose it. So if you think the home's worth $300,000, appraisal comes back at, $275, and you say, Steve, I still want to list $300,000. Well, we're not ever going to talk about that appraisal. Don't have to disclose it. But if we think the home is worth $300 and it comes back at $325, well, heck yeah, let's post that on the back end. Let's talk about it in public remarks, and let's list that sucker at $325. So another thing you can do to help you with some marketing, but I can tell you, appraisers, they consider the most recent sales. And they don't consider the sale 2 years ago that was at top market value. if your neighbor just sold and they had to undercut the market and they sold for $30,000 less, but then six months before that, other appraisers, or the other neighbors sold for $30,000 more, they use the most recent comps. The most recent says it sold for $30,000 less. That's what they consider. So keep that in mind. Next part, you got to spend money to make money. It's been a long time coming for sellers, where I remember being able to walk in the house and be like, Stephen, what all I need to do? I was like, you don't need to do anything. All we need to do is list the property, and I'm going to bring you 10 offers tomorrow. Those are the good old days when you were a listing agent. Those sucked whenever you were a buyer's agent, because I was on both sides of it, probably 70% buyers, 30% sellers. That was a difficult time. Roles are in the process of changing. I would say we're pretty much not all the way there, but we're headed there to where, as a seller, depending on your price point, you probably do need to touch up paint. You probably do need to touch up the holes on the wall that the pictures have. You probably do need to do some landscaping, mow the grass, put down some black mulch, do a little bit of, I'm not real big on staging in our market. I think house actually shows better empty than it does staged. But I do think the term staging, if you are living in it, and how to do things, how to put things, the psychology behind the openness and making the rooms feel bigger, I do think is important. Ultimately, though, I don't know, just because you bring in an extra couple flower plants and put some fake fruit on a kitchen counter for staging, that's the reason why people bought a house. I'm not on that side. But spending money to make money, there. So again, paint, landscape, updates, right? You've got a terrible old crappy 40-year-old vanity in there. You can go to freaking Costco and buy a good vanity for like $400 to $600 or something, and replace it. Now all of a sudden, just the whole vibe of that bathroom because of that vanity has changed. So those are things that you really need to consider on getting money back, and those can be things. Buyers right now is they've been beat up and they don't want to buy a home. They have to do things to. So that gets me into my next point. Offering closing costs, offering closing credits to a contractor for repairs. So I did this on actually my last two flips. One actually closed today. It needed a new roof. Now, roof was not leaking, got it inspected, but boy, that thing was probably 25, 30 years old, visually. So what I did, and I knew it was a very small roof. I knew it was probably $8,000 to $12,000. So what I said was, hey, listen, I'm going to offer $10,000. Now, I didn't even post this, right? I ended up getting this one. This is the one I got under contract in like an hour. But I told the guy, I said, hey, here's my plan. Here's what I'm going to list for. I was like, it's going to be $250,000, and I'm going to be willing to give $10,000 back at closing for the, basically new roof, your closing costs, whatever, but it's credit for the roof. Here's the inspection report, and they were good with it because I knew it was a new roof. It really needed it. Most buyers don't have an extra $10,000 to buy a home and then turn around and come in and try to put a new roof on it. Also, I'm in the insurance game. The insurance game, if you have a roof, by some of these carriers, 10 years or older, they won't even quote you. A lot of them, 15 years or older, they won't even quote you. And some of the ones that quote you, they're going to put a clause on it to where they actually can depreciate the roof. So what I mean by that is if it's a 20-year-old roof, well, most insurance companies, it don't matter what shingles you put up there. For the most part, they're going to say, it's pretty much end of life. So we're going to put basically an exemption in there. So if something does happen, we're not going to replace the roof, which is where most home claims are involving the roof, right? Wind, hail, rain, all that sort of damage, tree falling on it, right? Roof is where insurance company lose the most money at on home insurance claims. So to give somebody the opportunity to have a lot more insurance, right, replacing the roof and doing all that is something I know and advise people to do. But you also have, credits, have some repairs. So the one I got under contract just maybe a week ago, it needed some TLC, a little bit, plenty livable. Sellers were living in it when I bought it. Plenty livable, but it's not updated. It needs, everything works. And so what I did was I priced it. There we go. Sorry about that. I'm going to give you $20,000 back at closing to use for whatever you want, to go to a contractor. Well, how this deal's worked out is I'm just going to use easy numbers. Buyers needed like $9,000 of closing costs, so they took 9 of the 20, put it towards their closing costs. They got to bring nothing to the table. It's a USDA offer, so they're literally going to show up and buy this home without any money. And then the other $11,000 is going to a contractor of their choice at closing to do whatever repairs they want to do and however they see fit and make all the changes. So I'm basically, hey, we need to do this. A buyer is going to expect this, but I don't want to do it in a way where, for one, I'm out the money up front, and two, maybe make these changes and it just wasn't beneficial for certain buyers. So I'll kind of give them the freedom to do that. And I realize not every buyer wants to do that, but some do. So now they can paint it whatever the color they want to paint it. They got $11,000, which is more than enough to make, and it is. It's not like the TLC was $20,000 or was $20,000 and I only gave them $20,000. No, the TLC was like, not even $10,000, and I gave them double of that. So it's arguably like more worth their time. And plus, I knew most buyers in the area and the price point was going to need close to cost anyway. So I kind of considered that, got ahead of it. Next, lower the price often. This is what I do. I lower the price often on my flips. I'm not saying that's the reason why my one sold. It was on the market a month. I left it on there for like 10 days for anything, and then all of a sudden, every basically 4 or 5 days, I did a $1,000 drop. Boom, $1,000 drop, $1,000 drop. The reason when you do a $1,000 drop, and again, different price points are going to call for different low price points adjustments. You can't be lowering a $1.5 million house $1,000. But also, you don't need to lower a $15,000 land deal $1,000. But it would, to me, that number made sense. So that's what I need to lower it as, and so that's what I was lowering out. Here goes a bunch of dang hot rod cars. Bunch of nice cars. So that's what I encourage my sellers to do, because every 3 days it will show basically that, you've refreshed it and you stay top of mind. Every time you do a price drop, it resets it in all the search filters. It keeps you at the top of the pages. It email blasts out everybody that's in a search filter, in a search portal, that's going to look for a home let me get that unplugged, that matches what your home is. It's so you stay in front of these people, versus if you sit there and you list your home and it's been on there for 2 weeks, you're not moved in price, it's at the bottom. It's at the back of the pages. So it's something that keeps your home relevant. I'm huge on this. And it seems like every time that we do this price drop and dip, it really does seem like that it generates a showing. And this is directly my personal experience, and then my experience being a listing agent for sellers that do this. I'm really, really big, and I think that's a huge benefit, is doing your house a price drop every 3 to 5 days, often, just slow, and it keeps you fresh, keeps you relevant. Next, and the last one, as I mentioned, kind of like a common sense thing. I want to get on here and be like, my top 3 things, and I'm like, yeah, just lower your price. Everybody knows that can help. But this last one is kind of that, is make sure your value is better than the competition. That's what I'll say. I'll say your value. So I'm going to give you one quick example. I have a condo in the Woodlands. Its value, it's based on the other condos that are similar. One of them is more updated, but we're $20,000 under that price, and we're 100 square foot bigger. And ours doesn't necessarily need updates. It's fine. And really, for college students and who you're going to rent it to, you probably don't really want to update it that much. I wouldn't recommend it. So we are, 20,000 below that, plus 100 square foot bigger. We feel we're priced good comparatively, looking at the competition. The next one is 100 square foot less than us. Now, there's no photos, so we don't really know what it looks like on the inside. But usually if there's no photos, that usually means it's not good. So we are the same price as it, but 100 square foot bigger. So, and my seller called me today, and we were walking through and talking about some things. So we're going to do a small price drop to help that one out, to even show. So it's really important that you are paying attention to the market, and your agents pay attention to the market, to make sure that your neighbor didn't just lower the price, $10,000 lower than you, and be a much better value, because buyers are looking for the value. They're looking for deals. And so you want to make sure that you are the value, you are the deal. If you are motivated. Now, if you're not motivated, who cares? Do whatever you want. But that is a big thing. I had a seller, I went out yesterday, met in Kingston, and she messaged me because I gave them comps, and I always give people a range of like high end, low end, what to kind of expect. And she's like, well, where do you think we should list at? And because I know they're moving out of state, and I said, well, what I think you should list at today will be different than what I think you should list at maybe next week or in 3 weeks or in a month. because before, when the time comes and it makes sense we get on the market, I want to look at the competition. And if there's a house up the road, I'm just going to use easy numbers, that's very similar and it's at 300,000, well, we dang sure don't need to list at 305. If anything, be at that same, especially if we think we're better, some aspect is better, be at the same price, or be at 295. How it works out for me, and it's, an argument, I'm never looking to sell something for more money because it makes me more money, but I get paid on commission. So the higher the price point sells, arguably the more money that comes to me. But if it makes sense for a seller to be, hey, listen, this competition's up the road, they're at 300, I know that your home is worth every bit of that, but it's not moving, we should probably be at 299, 298, 295, whatever it is, have that conversation and make it make sense. You got to do it, right? Because you're hiring me to help you sell your home, and I got to take that. Now, what I do is I always educate everybody. I bring up scenarios. We talk about plan A, B, and C, and ultimately, I always let the sellers make the decision. I'm always happy to give my opinion. Sometimes even if you don't want my opinion, I will give it just so you know if I think you're doing something wrong. I'm going to be like, hey, not really what I advise, but I'll do it. Another example, I had a seller that wants to keep, they've moved out of the home. It's basically summer now. They want to keep the AC on 78. And I said, hey, we can do that. And, they're in another state now. I was like, but just so you know, I don't advise this. I think you're giving a bad buyer experience when they walk in that door and, they're sucking hot air versus coming in at the heat and walking into a house that's I told her 72 is what I recommend. But she said, nope, that's what I'll keep it as. So, want to save a couple bucks. That's what we did. That's what we're doing. I'm not going to say sellers don't always listen to me, but I don't ever take it to heart or anything. We getting that one under contract. So shows you what I know, right? All right, man, what are we doing here? But anyways, I wanted to go through that longer video. Apologize, but those are just some tips and tricks to sellers and things that I'm personally using, and I'm selling a flip property, things that I recommend. Every situation's different, so it's not like, oh, Steve, I'm selling, I need to do all those. Every situation is different. It's real estate. But as always, if you have questions, real estate insurance, always feel free to holler. Happy to help.